What's going on, everybody? C4 here. Welcome back to the 7-round 32-team mock draft series. We've done the Cardinals. We've done the 49ers. Next up is the New York Jets, sitting with the 3rd overall pick here, and they have had one hell of a free agency period, at least in terms of spending money. I think they did a very good job. How could you not? You got Le'Veon Bell coming in at running back. You traded for Kelechi, Osemele, who instantly becomes the best offensive lineman there. Jamison Crowder's a really nice slot option. You got CJ Mosley, sure, just paid $1 trillion for probably the best linebacker that was on the market. You brought in Brian Poole, who is a Florida Gator fan. I'm a little bit biased, but I think that's a really, really nice signing, pairing that with another Gator in Marcus May, who plays free safety. I think they did a lot of good things. They did a lot of good things, and to pair with that, you get the number 3 overall pick. There's nowhere really you can go wrong. So understanding that the biggest question mark maybe coming to the Jets is what are they going to run on the defensive side? Greg Williams is coming in, has run 4-3-3-4. A lot of people thought they're going to run a 4-3. He came out and kind of said best way to utilize their current roster is to stay in a 3-4. So understanding that, going into the 3rd pick of the 1st round, I am selecting Josh Allen, edge rusher from Kentucky. I think overall they need to completely overhaul the edge rushing situation there. You have Jordan Jenkins with the 3rd round pick in 2016. I mean, he can be a starter. We'll talk about this in just a little bit, a couple more picks. But I think Jordan Jenkins will best be utilized as a rotational edge rusher, not being out there on the field a whole lot because he does get picked on in coverage. But a guy like Josh Allen, I think he comes in and can start day one. He's a complete edge, elite traits, tested very well at the combine, has that SEC production, was unstoppable in the SEC. And SEC bias is a real thing. But to be completely honest with you, they consistently produce a lot of offensive line talent that goes to the NFL. It might not be as high as the Big Ten or as elite as the Big Ten, but I probably put the SEC at number 2, and the fact that Josh Allen was consistently able to beat these guys gives me confidence that he will be able to do the same in the National Football League. Now, the biggest issue with Josh Allen, I think he has to get stronger. That's kind of why I've been saying and pounding the table that he's not a 4-3 end, because I just don't think he's strong enough, and you're kind of misutilizing his strengths by having there. But he will get stronger when he gets on that strength and conditioning program in the National Football League, and he's going to become even better of an edge rusher. His ceiling is Von Miller. I'm not going to say he's the next Von Miller just yet, because obviously he needs to get a little bit stronger, but his game, if he continues on this trajectory that he is going, he can reach Von Miller-like levels. And really, when I talk about Josh Allen, the one thing I want to keep bringing up, because I saw it firsthand against my Florida Gators, is that he could drop back into coverage. How often you get a guy that's an outside linebacker from college, 3-4 outside linebacker, that's pretty much a glorified edge rusher. That's all they can do. They can't really drop back, they can't cover, they're just a liability when they're out there. You better hope to God that they get there, they affect the pass, because there's going to be that open space in the whatever center of the defense that they're going to be leaving open, that you're going to need a safety or a linebacker to cover that up. Now, I guess with Williamson and Mosley, those are 2 really good inside linebackers that should help out in that, but Josh Allen can also drop back into coverage. I watched against the Gators, he was covering our running backs, he was covering our tight ends in coverage, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This guy here has 12 sacks, 20 tackles for loss, and he can drop back and cover. So I've been high on Josh Allen since, I actually going into last year, he was rumored to be coming out, and I was like, who is this guy? Never even heard of him. Right now, as soon as I saw that, I was like, all right, top 5. He's a top 5 player. Back when most people had him as top 15, going in between 10 and 20, somewhere in that range, I was like, nope, he's going top 10. That is a complete 3-4 outside linebacker who only is going to get better. And I think when you're the Jets, you're staying at 3-4. And I think when you look at that defense, outside linebacker, the edge rushers in their defense is maybe their biggest weakness. You got to go at number 3 and get Josh Allen. Moving to the 3rd round, because I think they traded that 2nd round in the Sam Darnold trade. At pick 68, I'm selecting Caleb McGarry, offensive tackle from Washington. I think when you look at the Jets, they debatably could have the 2 worst starting tackles in the league consistently. Kelvin Beachum is average, and Brandon Shell is well below average. So I think a guy like Caleb McGarry could come in and help that defense. Now, you're in the 3rd round, so you're not going to be getting the big names. You're not going to be getting the guys that are instant starters right away. But I think Caleb McGarry can come in. He's a powerful right tackle. Some scouts think he might be able to move inside at guard, which gives you some flexibility if he opens up as depth. He could be your swing tackle plus that last offensive lineman that you draft. But I think he can challenge because of how I think their team is going to change a little bit with Le'Veon Bell and how I think they're going to have to adjust their scheme. I think that his power at right tackle is going to allow him to sustain blocks when Le'Veon Bell is doing that patient running, that stuff. I think that's going to be a big challenge for this Jets offensive line, is because I think ultimately what we saw with the Steelers, they were so different in how they ran block for Le'Veon Bell because of his running style. I think there's going to be some guys on this offensive line that are going to be a little bit out of place. So I think they identified Kelechi Osemele earlier on as a guy that's going to be pretty nice. I think, Brian Winters is average enough at guard. Jonathan Harrison, Florida Gator bias at center. But I do think a guy like Caleb McGarry might have a legitimate shot to challenge for that right tackle spot with Brandon Shell, with his strength advantage. And if not, like I said, because a lot of people think because of his size, he might be able to move inside as well. That versatility will definitely come in big to an offensive line that needs to continue to get better. Going to the second, third-round pick 93, I was selecting Ben Banogu, outside linebacker edge from TCU. Back to Jordan Jenkins. Jordy Jenkins was the number 98th ranked edge from Pro Football Focus, for whatever that means. I usually use Pro Football Focus for run game and dropping back into coverage. Things that, really you can't just stat sheet watch, because you look at him, he had 7 sacks last year. That's not bad, especially for the Jets defense. But clearly, if he's that low, I'm using that as, this could be misinformation. But I'm going to use it as he got picked on in the run game, he got picked on in the pass game, and when I see 7 sacks, I see a guy like, whoa, why don't we just utilize him in obvious passing situations? Have him use his skill set so he's not constantly on the field for a whole lot of time and getting exposed and getting targeted. So that is where you bring in a guy like Ben Banogu, who is just dominant combine. He had an absolute dominant combine, 4.62, 40-inch vertical. It's pretty much top 5 in every major category. Has elite burst, and I think that you kind of view him as a third rounder that could come in, and when you switch to that rotational, him and Jordan Jenkins can rotate. They can keep bringing the pressure. You get Terrell Basham too, who was I think like a mid-round pick from the Colts a couple years ago. Another guy that's going to be able to come in and rotate and help try to affect the pass. So I think when you look at Banogu, you bet on the excellent combine, you bet on the athletic traits. He had some really nice tape, some good flashes for TCU last year. I think he had almost 9 sacks, 10 sacks, just under there. So, and pairing with the fact that I think this is a defense that needs to get more explosive. The inside has been shored up. You got C.J. Mosley, Avery Williamson, and maybe even overkill with Darren Lee, the 2016 first-rounder that finally seemed last year to be getting his momentum. I personally think you should trade him. Hey, call it Philadelphia. It could be intriguing there. But you got to shore up that outside. And I think getting a rotational edge rush going there for Greg Williams will be key. You draft Josh Allen to start, but then you get Jordan Jenkins, Ben Banogu, that Luvu guy, who I think a lot of Jet fans do like. That's a healthy rotation. Moving into the 4th round, pick 105, I'm selecting Myles Boykin, wide receiver from Notre Dame. He had basically had one of the greatest combines ever. Everyone's pretty much enamored with the kind of numbers that DK Metcalf put up. And I know I've seen some mock drafts have DK Metcalf at 3 to the Jets. But a guy like Myles Boykin's like a budget DK Metcalf. And I personally feel like when you gamble on the guys that are freak athletes that don't always have the insane college production to match up with their big comments, I think the 4th round is where you start taking them, where you start gambling that your wide receiver coach, your offensive staff is going to be able to develop them and let them reach their maximum potential. Myles Boykin, like I said, had one of the greatest combines ever for a wide receiver. He's like 6'3", 6'4", 220 pounds, and like his numbers, his percentiles rivaled Chris Chambers, Calvin Johnson, Andre Johnson. I mean, just really, really good, if not all-time greats. Obviously, one of those wide receivers, not like the other. I feel like that's worth the gamble here when you're a team like the Jets that needs to continue to find ways to give Sam Darnold even more weapons. Le'Veon Bell's nice. You got Robbie Anderson on a tender, so he's back on a 1-year deal. You got 2 kind of slot wide receivers and a noon one Crowder, so you need someone else that can help take the top off the defense, and you can get that in Myles Boykin. And I know it's just kind of tough to judge any player from Notre Dame, but still his stats weren't terrible. I mean, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns last year. And like I said, I think in the 4th round, you take that decent production, the unreal combine. That's worth the gamble. That is worth the gamble. And I think when you look at Robbie Anderson, he's on a 1-year deal. So maybe Brandon Boykin could be his replacement next year if you can't work out a long-term deal. Or if you can with Robbie Anderson, then you can look at making them a tandem and having that elite speed on the outside. Moving into the 6th round at pick 196, I'm selecting Phil Haynes, offensive guard from Wake Forest. He is a very productive, powerful run blocker, and I think right now, looking at the depth chart, we're in the 6th round. You're looking for guys that might be able to sneak on the final 53. Haynes could emerge as top depth behind Kelechi Osemele or Brian Winters. And I think when you look at Brian Winters, he has a $7 million cap hit next year, which would be direct savings if you released him. The fact that he's just, an above average to average guard, maybe you want to cut some corners. Maybe you want to be able to free up that money. And I think a guy like Phil Haynes might be a cheap alternative replacement in 2020 to free up Brian Winters' somewhat ugly contract. And again, like I said, I feel like with Le'Veon Bell being their franchise runner, I think you're going to see the Jets try and reshape this offensive line because you're going to need unique linemen that can all work together as a cohesive unit with Le'Veon Bell's run style. You clearly didn't spend that money to bring in Le'Veon Bell for him to adapt to you. This is an offensive line that has to adapt to Le'Veon Bell, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them use a lot of picks on the offensive line. Clearly, they should do it anyway because our offensive line is not particularly strong. And then finishing up in the 7th round, pick 217, I'm selecting Montre Hartage, cornerback from Northwestern. I think he will slip due to his poor combine because he's coming in as a mid-round pick, 5th round, 4th, 5th, 6th, somewhere in that territory. But he did not have a particularly great combine. But, if you looked at his tape, which I actually, for whatever reason, stumbled upon Northwestern when I was kind of looking for some Patty Fisher tape at linebacker, I was like, Hartage is not that bad. He's your typical zone corner, really strong tackler, 9 interceptions, 26 pass breakups in 3 years. I think he's exactly the kind of player that they are kind of looking for. You got Tremaine Johnson. He's in that style. Brian Poole, again, another guy that's more of a tackler than he is a finesse guy on the outside. You get your speed in Perry Nickerson, but if that's the kind of defense that they're trying to build here for Greg Williams, a guy like Hartage really does fit that scheme. And then when you're looking at in the 7th round, he does, because he's a decent tackler. He can, help out on special teams just a little bit. But I think when I'm looking at their depth chart right now, I see a guy that can come in the 7th round, last pick in the draft for the Jets, and challenge to be cornerback 4 or 5 on that depth chart. So there you go, guys. That is my mock draft here for the New York Jets. I really do like the fit of Josh Allen, but I definitely always like to reach out to fans of the specific teams that I'm mocking for. So Jet fans, I know there's a couple of you out there. Let me know how you feel about this mock draft. Where would you go different? Do you like? What do you not like? I think we addressed pretty much all their concerns. The only thing I think maybe Jet fans could disagree on is doubling up at outside linebacker. There could be some Jet fans, a segment of Jet fans that like Jordan Jenkins and would like to pair him, say, with Josh Allen. And then that 3rd round, instead of going Benogu, maybe you look elsewhere. Maybe you look at bringing in a higher rated offensive lineman. I mean, you could look at bringing in a 2nd tight end to complete the room with Christopher Herndon. Maybe look at another wide receiver. Maybe look at the inside of that defensive line. But I think we did all right. But let me know how you feel about it in the comment section below. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button, smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.